Hello, welcome to the program agenda. Wishing you a pleasant day. I hope this day bodes well for all of you. And thank you for watching us on Cignal TV, on One News PH, on YouTube, and on Facebook. I'm your host, Cito Beltran, thanking you. And today we are going to have two interesting gentlemen who are going to walk us through our population situation. If you have been reading the news, you may have picked up on an item where it was suggested by population experts or advocates, population planning or family planning advocates, that the wages should be increased because workers can no longer subsist or make ends meet with the minimum wage. Now, a lot of people are saying, bakit? Bakit sila pumasok sa usapan na yan? They are population advocates or planning advocates. And why are they now talking about minimum wages? And then, of course, I was listening to our guest for today, and apparently there has been a shift. In the past few decades, those who got pregnant early were people in college. Kasama na dyan po yung magulang ko. Ako ay product of a collegiate encounter ng mga magulang ko. But now it seems that the people who are getting pregnant early are in high school. So we will discuss that. But before any of that, let us now go to our daily starter. And it is from the comedian Michael Jr. You have to know what you believe in order to be in the position to receive. If you're believing less than what's possible, it will be impossible for you to get what you desire. Kumbaga, nangliligaw ka, hindi ka namang naniniwalang sasagutin ka ng oo, or you are aspiring for something, but in the back of your mind, you keep saying to yourself, it's a long shot, it's impossible. Well, that doesn't really connect. Ika nga, sabi ng computer, that does not compute. So please remember our daily starter today. If you want something, if you pray for something, as the Bible suggests, do so believing that you are already receiving it. And in fact, the Bible even says, thanking God in advance. Okay, now let's go to the front page of the Philippine Star. And the headline for today's issue, Marcos bears fresh batch of appointees. Ayan po, President-elect Bongbong Marcos has revealed 5 more cabinet members, and tingnan nyo na lang po sa dyaryo kung sino sila, and even more, review ninyo, check ninyo kung sino sila. Okay, at the top of the front page, BBM may have to step into Senate presidency. Okay, because as we pointed out yesterday, it's supposedly, allegedly, a 4-way fight between 4 senators aspiring to become Senate President. Now, this suggestion may look like the Solomonic version. However, it is wrong. It is not legal, because when the President of the Republic interferes with the processes of the legislative body, that's already an act that is unconstitutional. Kumbaga, hindi dapat pinapakialaman ng executive ang legislative o judiciary. Okay, that of course is in a perfect world. Meanwhile, Vice President Lenny congratulates Vice President-elect Sara, wishing her all the best. And Senate okays bill hiking pension for indigent seniors. Well, hindi po sa indigestion, ha? Indigent seniors meaning poor seniors, yung mga kapos palad, and ayan, tinaasan ng Senate ang kanilang pension. Meanwhile, over 1,000 vote-buying complaints according to the COMELEC. Interesting point because a few weeks ago, sabi nila 1,200. Mukhang nabawasan na. Okay, then Commission on Appointment defers action on Rodi nominees, waits for BBM. Okay, may mga nakabinbin daw na mga appointments with the Commission on Appointments and the Civil Service, etc. na nominees during the Duterte administration, hintay na lang daw na magdesisyon si BBM. So those are up for review. Private hospitals say health facilities ready for monkeypox. Okay. According to PIA President Jose Rene de Grano, they are prepared, but essentially it has been said time and again that if anyone comes down with monkeypox, it can be treated immediately with a smallpox vaccine, basta maagapan kagad. Then we have that photo of students at the Abellana National School in Cebu City on the first day of return to school for face-to-face classes, limited face-to-face classes. Okay, while current Executive Secretary Medjaldea claims that President Duterte plans to teach after his presidency when his term is over. More envoys or ambassadors pay courtesy call on BBM. Okay, yan po. Pumipila na ang mga representatives of different countries and paying their courtesy and short meetings with President-elect Bongbong Marcos. Meanwhile, yung picture sa babang-baba is a baker preparing e-Nutribuns, a bread developed by the Department of Science and Technology for DepEd feeding program. Ayan po, no? Kung hindi nyo nakakilala yung Nutriban, lumabas yan noong 70s, 80s. Actually, 70s, late 70s. Okay, those are the news items on the front page of the Philippine Star. Let's now go to our guests for today. I thought they're going to be together. Gab, could you please clarify this? Because I thought I was going to have two guests at a time. Hindi ko lang alam kung single. Okay. Singles raw. One-on-one dates daw this morning. Wala raw pakyawan. Okay, first, let's speak with Executive Director of the Commission on Population and Development. And they're also, I believe, the ones. Kaya actually, ito kasalanan nito nung guest natin kung bakit naging a talk of the town. Itong suggestion that the pay scale of minimum workers or daily wage earners be raised. We have with us Executive Director Juan Antonio Perez III, otherwise known as GP. Akala ko GP kasi, or JP. Okay. Sir, good morning, Executive Director Perez.
Magandang umaga, Cito. Nice to be with you again. Great to be with you.
Yeah, well, what's going on? Kasi maraming tao, well, I for one, was kind of scratching my head. I said, what is the Commission on Population and Development doing, joining this conversation on increasing minimum wages?
Well, it's a 50-year-old story, 52-year-old story. The Commission on Population was set up in 69 and 72 with a mandate to make sure that Filipinos enjoy the fruits of socioeconomic development. And the first stage to enjoy that was put down as people have to plan their families, have a good family size, and that's only the first base of enjoying the fruits of socioeconomic development. So family planning is just an entry point to ultimately seeing quality population. And that's why in our board, we have the Department of Labor, we have Agriculture, we have DAR, we have Trade, we have DOH, DepEd. Yes, the reason for all of them being there is not just for family planning, because eventually when people plan their families, it's not just, our aim is not just to have a family size of 2. That family must have a quality life, must share in the fruits of socioeconomic development. I think we are a singular agency with that mandate. We are not a sectoral agency, we serve the entire population. And with this administration, particularly under Secretary Pernia of NEDA, when he became our chair, he included demographic dividend in the Philippine Development Plan. A demographic dividend means that Filipino families who are, let's say, who are responsible, who have met the requirements of responsible parenthood, should be able to enjoy the benefits of a dividend due to the fact that fertility has gone down. Therefore, we can invest more in education, in food, in including labor improvement, wage improvement, because we have noted that one thing holding us back from enjoying this demographic dividend is the regional wage income scale, which remains a minimum wage, and not a living wage. If you recall, NEDA has developed this Ambition 2040, which was approved by the President. And among the aims of an Ambition 2040 is a living wage, not a minimum wage. And we noted, because of our task to look at this demographic dividend, how far or how near we are to that, we commissioned the UP Population Institute, Professor Mico Del Mundo, to make a study on all the 17 regions, whether they are close to the dividend or far from it. No, and his study showed, because he looked at the number of workers, effective workers, earning right now a minimum wage, and the number of dependents. So the ratio should be that a worker can support himself or herself and at least one other. So when he looked at all the regional settings, he discovered that, or he showed to us, that only 3 regions are close to approximating this demographic dividend as of 2019. NCR has a dividend, not really a dividend yet, but workers in NCR can save money to invest in other things like housing.
On the average.
Yes, based on the minimum wage, which was 530 pesos at the time he did that. In Calabarzon, workers are about even. They're right on the line. In CAR, they're close to it. No? But all the other regions are showing that they are quite far from a demographic dividend, meaning the minimum wages, which are at different levels in the different regions, are holding them back. They're lagging behind. And the most extreme example is BARM, where the minimum wage is 300 pesos for an industrial worker, 295 for an agricultural worker. And each worker there has to support up to 4 individuals.
Okay.
That means a worker in BARM has to have a family in BARM has to have 2 sources of income, jobs, plus 2 more. So effectively 4 jobs to be at the support ratio level that we are recommending.
Yung mapakain lang yung pamilya at maalagaan.
and makapag-ipon ng konti.
Okay, kasi
Because I think that's an indicator. Kapag ang pamilya nakakapag-ipon, but of course the ipon will go to housing, to other food, but at least their basic necessities are met. Meaning they're covering the cost of living. And even beyond that, that's what we Filipinos aspire for, a better life. And so that way, we showed the board and we presented this to the Board of Commissioners, Secretary Chua and everyone.
yeah.
And in our last meeting, they said we should deepen the study even further to look historically. How long has this been going on? Because we just did a study now.
But what's the point of that, JP? Kasi, I mean, Nico Del Mundo, Professor Del Mundo already did the study. The study points to the fact that hirap yung mga manggagawa or yung let's not use the term the manggagawa, the daily wage earners, regardless of what they do, can't make it. Now, what is the point to further studies? It's already looking at us in the face.
Yes, I think the policy that we'd like to develop in the coming administration is a wage policy not based on minimum wage, but based on cost of living. You know,
Okay.
the minimum wage was 20 years ago was 7,000 in today's pesos. So effectively, in 20 years, we've increased minimum wage in NCR by 5,000 pesos. Yet the goal of Ambition 2040 is to increase income at least threefold, meaning if it's 12,000 right now, it should be 36,000. So it's time for this coming government to look at wage policies and not look at minimum wage, which does not beget equity, but look for growth in our economy that is equitable to the Filipino family, and that would mean not looking at a minimum wage policy, but looking at a cost of living policy.
I think you're not alone in talking about that, saying that. I mean, we here in the program have been pushing for that because it's just untenable. Hindi tama, hindi makatarungan at hindi makatao na pinagtatrabaho mo yung tao pero yung sweldo kapos at hindi natin natutulungan. But the question is, you have all of the bright minds representing all of the departments or key offices in government on your board. What did they decide? Aside from Carl Chua, was it Carl Chua who said that we need to study this more and find out historically? I mean, like, history isn't going to feed the laborer. Now, what did the board decide?
Well, we have a pending resolution where the board is endorsing the use of this, we call it the support ratio, as one of the key indicators for the next Philippine development plan. So,
but GP, you've been in this field for quite some time. Now, let's just break it all down, okay? When people say population commission, people associate it with family planning, population control, etc. Where are we regarding population planning or ideal family ratios? Where are we? Kasi noon sabi, every year we grow by 2.6% in our population.
yes.
Are we still hitting that or have we reduced it?
The last time we had a population growth of 1.5 million was 2019. In 2020, the population grew by only 900,000. In 2021, it only grew by 400,000. So PSA also looked at fertility, the fertility of women giving birth in 2020. And it shows that women have only, in 2020, 1.8 children per woman, fertility. So in effect, we are in a demographic transition. We are at just the right spot to come up with policies now to help the Filipino family overcome this the current situation because we had been waiting for fertility to go down. Now it is down to 1.8.
Why? How do you explain the decrease in fertility or the decrease in our population growth?
Combination of many factors. Our family planning program has grown to 8 million from 4 million at the start of the last decade. And it even increased during COVID times. Second, there was a decrease in marriages in 2020, 2021. There were fewer births because avoidance of pregnancy, unplanned pregnancies, unintended pregnancies was the aim of most women. And the economic crisis as well. It's been shown that whenever there is an economic downturn, births go down. That's a worldwide phenomenon.
Okay, which brings me
So all of these things together brought us to this demographic situation, which we must take advantage of.
Yeah, but that brings me to my next question, or my next question. Because when the economy gets better, just like with, and I'm not comparing ourselves to animals, okay? But you know that in the natural environment, when there's an abundance of feed, the creatures populate or increase in number. Now, aren't you worried that that could be the reverse result of this push for economic boost for living wages, etc. Kumbaga, pag nabigay na yung living wages, baka magkabuntisan tayo.
Well, that's always that happened in some countries, where with the easing of but we have not yet seen an easing in the economy. For one, but whenever there's an improvement in the economy, there could be a rebound. They call it a tidal reversal, but that is not as big as the previous fertility, because people tend to have smaller families over time as they see the benefits of having a small family, economically, health-wise, that they can invest in other. That is the whole point of a demographic dividend. Smaller families lead to bigger incomes in the household. They invest more in other things. The economy also grows because of that. So it is, in a way, a virtuous cycle that smaller families lead to better economies. It was seen in Japan, in Korea, in Thailand.
Okay.
And but we must have the policies to support families.
Okay, you managed to get the media's attention by proposing something that most people did not think was under your purview or you had the right to be talking about, meaning we should increase minimum wage to living wages. Now, how do you plan to get the new administration's endorsement or suggestion? Because I think living wages at the end of the day is dictated upon by the business sector. What will you be doing to convince businessmen, and what is your argument? Let's say, what is your argument for businessmen to buy in? Because you're going to have to convince them that if they increase to living wages, which I support strongly, you're going to have to convince the business sector.
Yes. My proof to that is the way 4Ps has shown that whenever people are given resources, 4Ps, they buy things, napupuno ang mga mall, whenever there's a payout for 4Ps. That means when people have money in their hands, they spend it on the economy rather than they don't have time to save. So by putting more money in the hands of people, you will actually stimulate the economy. Now, it's been, a myth,
let me just
a myth by the business sector to say increasing wages lead to unemployment. That is, I think, patently untrue and can be disproven by this very fact. When people are given money, they spend it. So spending means better economy.
Dagdagan ko lang yan, GP, kasi there might be people who will be arguing against you. There is a method to your madness, as they say, because Yeah, you're very correct. When people have money at those economic levels, C, D, and E, when they have money, because kapos nga sila, gagastusin nila talaga. They will use it for the things that they need or want, which they never could afford in the first place. But when the money is just circulating within the A and B market, only two things generally or three things generally happen. Pag may pera yung mayaman, itinatabi, they either save, they invest in businesses which tend to compete with other businesses, does not really help the economy. It helps the economic managers' profiles. And third, it also results in expenditure that are not local. Marami sa mga big buys ng mga mayayaman abroad, biyahe abroad, bibili ng produkto galing abroad. And that's the argument that supports your position.
Yes, actually, you know where I heard that argument from? I heard it from Washington CC.
Okay.
Wash CC, he was the board of Friendly Care where I was a member, and then I was able to listen to him before. He's very angry at wealthy people who, when they have, these gains, they take it out of the country. They don't invest in the country and the people. So we have a cycle of a GDP that's growing, but it's not equitable to the population. We will be an upper middle income country because of the GDP, but does the GDP reflect equity in the income of it? Does not, based on our estimates. So we must have growth with equity, and one of the ways to do that is by stimulating, improving the wages of people so that they can partake in the economy, they can reap the benefit. You know who wrote that? Ferdinand Marcos ordered us to do that in PD 79 at the height of martial law. He revised the Population Act to tell us people must share in the benefits of socio-economic development. So it's been 50 years.
That was his argument against the oligarchs.
Yes, and POPCOM was asked to do that.
Okay. Now, here's
why we're doing
another cause of concern, GP. The economists have been arguing that the Philippines is in a great spot, opportunity is at the door because we have a big and young population.
Yes.
Kumbaga, may market, may labor source, etc., etc. And sorry, but I had to essentially get in their face and said, you have the population numbers, but you do not have the jobs. So what good is it to have all of these people who are unproductive and who end up becoming a burden to their families or to the state? Now, am I right or am I wrong?
That's our very point. That is what our support ratio is all about. It doesn't, the count of the population is important, but the number of effective workers is the key. As you said, as the economists say, not everyone is looking for a job, but the one not looking for a job is consuming. No? And the worker has to support those ones who are not working, even if they are of working age.
GP, ang tawag doon, ewan ko sa UP ka nang galing, ano? Tawag namin doon mga palamunin.
Yes. I mean, they are not counted in that equation when you say, oh, marami ng workers, marami ng productive population, but they're not working. So that causes the imbalance. That's why we need policies that will lead to more effective workers.
Speaking of policies, what about the argument that what we need is not higher wages but more jobs to stimulate the economy? So, kumbaga, that is the argument of the business sector. What say you?
Well, jobs must be, of course, of quality, of good income, not precarious jobs, because that leads to more harm to the workers. And I think, because fertility is so much in the younger age group, young people are the ones having babies, yet they have incomes that are smaller at the very time when they need. So young people must be employed. Focus on the young. At least have good pay for them so that they can support the emerging families. Otherwise, the young will just postpone.
Targeted policies so that the young first have good education,
Correct.
where
Yes.
they have quality employment, hindi lang mga labor, and then second, that they're able to save money, and then third, essentially make sure that they don't get pregnant until they're
they
good
can
and
afford
ready.
it.
But
Women also, Cito,
yeah.
women are only 50% employed, if not lower. So women also have to become part of the labor force. And you know, when NEDA made the survey, people said they wanted to stay where they are. Yet because of the lack of jobs in rural areas, they're moving to the urban areas, to the cities.
Hey.
But if you ask people, they'd rather stay where they are, find a good job where they are. So we must also have a policy to keep people in place and training so that they can be employed in their areas.
Okay, wait. I was going to ask you. Nako, ito nahirap sa mga puti ang buhok eh, no? What about last question, but of very serious concern to me. Whenever I talk about family planning to people on the streets, because I have my ministry, you know, the small people, the little people, on a personal note, I always tell them, ba't di ka pa magpalaygate? Nakadalawang anak ka na, close open trabaho ng mister mo. You know, they all tell me the same story. They all want to have ligation because they already have 3 or 4 kids. But when they go to public hospitals and hospitals run by the religious, they are told, no, you have to go to a private hospital. That's not offered here, or we don't give those services here. What the hell is going on?
Well, yeah, we don't have enough people trained to do tubal ligation and vasectomies. There are only maybe 1 or 2 hospitals in every region that can do a ligation regularly.
But shouldn't that be part of your offerings or services, or any agency of government tasked for these things on family planning, etc.? Dapat yung service available kasi wala kada pupunta, naturuan ninyong magpalaygate, naturuan ninyong mag-family planning. Pag pumunta doon sa hospital, pahingi pong pang kontrabuntis, wala. Pwede yung magpalaygate, wala.
Yes. Alam mo, that's why DOH and POPCOM are coming together to form itinerant teams. So in every region, we will form a team that will go around all the provinces and conduct these ligations, and over time also vasectomies. No?
Promise, ha?
Yeah, yes. Actually, in POPCOM, in Mandaluyong, we're operating Monday to Friday. You can get a vasectomy or a tubal ligation there any week of the month. You can come over and go to POPCOM's clinic. We're ready to provide the service. And actually, our team there goes all over the country also. But we hope to develop that in each region, the same team of experts.
Well, I do hope you manage to do that. And it's been an interesting conversation, GP. Please keep us posted, update us on what you guys are doing, because I personally, and that's agenda's agenda as well, that we should promote family planning. Hindi po ito human control, creating controlled societies. Kasi the smaller the family number, mas konti ang mga papakainin mo, mas magagastusan ninyo ng mas maigi yung konting papakainin nyo. Kesa sa ang daming anak, kapos naman yung iba, kanin at asin na ang kinakain o kangkong na lang ng kangkong araw-araw. Anyway, thank you very much, GP.
Maraming salamat, Cito. Good morning.
Okay, yan po, Juan Antonio Perez III, Executive Director, Commission on Population and Development, and let's all pray and support them. Wala na pong kontrahan kasi ang hinihingi naman nila para sa ikabubuti nating lahat. You can talk to me. I am a servant of the Lord. Pero there is, I don't think it is a blessing when children are starving because there are so many mouths to feed and only one job that pays a pittance. Okay, so if you are an employer, one way or the other, punuan po ninyo, fill the cup of your workers. Either you give them a roof on their head, you give them a sack of rice extra, or you give them a better salary, or whatever you have an excess of, please give it to them. Hindi mo naman ginagamit, binubulok mo lang dyan sa bahay mo. At least that way we bless them. And hopefully, you will also spend time teaching people on the benefits of having a small family. I only have one child, and by God's grace, and I say by God's grace, at least she's getting an education abroad, and we hope she will contribute to the nation. We'll go for a quick break. When we return, balikan naman natin ang ating susunod na bisita and someone I enjoy speaking with, Dr. Jondi Flavier, Advisor, Forum on Family Planning and Development. Doon sa nasagap kong kwento kanina na yung dati ang mga nagkakabuntisan college level. Ngayon daw po, what's happening is they're now in the high school level. Okay, we'll be right back here on Agenda. Welcome back to the program Agenda. I'm your host, Cito Beltran. And for this second part of our program, let's bring in one of our favorites, Dr. Jondi Flavier. He's an advisor for the Forum on Family Planning and Development, a physician, and congressman ba o kinapos?
Hindi, ano pa rin ako, taga-alaga ng apo, Sir Cito. So thank you very much for having me on the air, and thanks to your endorsement, nakapasok si Congress Representative Ron Salo sa Kabayan Party List po.
Okay.
But I'm very excited kasi pinasok mo nga yung tungkol sa mga bata na ang nabubuntis ngayon, mga senior high. But in fairness to DepEd, what we're seeing is seems to be an effect of the K-12. Kasi dati, yung grade 11 at 12 natin ngayon, yun yung mga first and second year college. Eh dahil nag-K to 12, sila na first year, second year college lang sana, nasa high school. That's the opportunity, pero the difficulty is, sa nakita namin, those that get pregnant early before were in first year or second year college.
Yeah.
And now, because of the K-12, nakikita na sila sa senior and junior high school. But
So does the age, yung age bracket, it
Opo.
remains the same?
Yes.
How old?
This is 16, 17 years old. Doon na medyo tumadami ang nagbubuntis. Dati, yung ating DepEd, hindi masyadong pinapansin yun kasi nasa CHED yun sa higher education. Pero ngayon, sana pansinin nila. Ang the historical difficulty that was faced by DepEd was, in fact, Secretary Liling Briones had started to make condoms available in schools in addition to the important information on family planning and contraception. Unfortunately, you know very well some voices that are very much against family planning frightened her and scared her with her budget, threatened her budget. So she had to let go of that chance to make condoms available in the elementary school.
Kasi naman hindi naman nagsumbong sa amin Kung nagsumbong sana siya sa amin, di kami naman yung nanakot ng mga nananakot, ano?
Salamat. Ngayon pwede natin takutin Cito kasi now it's a DepEd issue. Pregnancies have come to the high school level.
Subukan nilang takutin si Sara Duterte.
Ayan ang
Tingnan ko lang pag hindi sila ginera nun.
At saka kinakabahan ako Cito kasi kanina sabi mo face-to-face na ang mga bata. Sana naman wag muna yung holding hands at kiss-to-kiss sa mga bata. Baka mas more than that ang mangyari. So apart from education, DepEd really needs to bring in more opportunities for our young people to use condoms man lang or other family planning.
Okay, but is this limited to public schools? Because baka naman depende sa klase ng school because I observed with our friends at our level whose children go to private schools and to Christian schools, walang interest mag-boyfriend In fact, yesterday, one of my friends said, Cito, can you please talk to my daughter who's already married about having children kasi gusto ko magkaapo. Parang there is an observable distinction. Now, you're saying that those under DepEd, which are primarily public schools, the pregnancies are up, but in the private schools, they're not even interested in boyfriend, girlfriend.
I think that's a function of the opportunities and the tragedy of unplanned or unwanted pregnancies that's happening among our younger people. And GP was moving towards this end. When you were talking about the missed potential income, when a young girl gets pregnant early, oftentimes it becomes difficult to continue her schooling. It becomes difficult to get better jobs, a better career, and better income. And the POPCOM and our economists have already calculated that the missed income because of early pregnancies goes up to the 30s of billions. So that's a lot that's missed. And here we go back to your issue na sana may pagkakataon ng mga bata, hindi lang sa private schools, but even in government schools, to practice family planning, not just be informed about family.
Yeah, but Doc Jondi, I'm just worried about this. No, I support I'll call it the mechanical intervention or the medical intervention. Okay, yun. That's one step. But many people. I subscribe to the philosophy that pag bata pa lang yan, tinuturuan mo na about
The birds and
about
the bees.
yeah, about the bird. Wag ng birds and the bees kasi lalong nagiging
Nalilito.
mystery o comics eh.
Okay,
Hindi ba?
I
Parang
agree. I agree.
teach this sex education in school.
Mhm.
If people don't want medical, mechanical interventions, then they have to agree for sex education, not just about copulation, about organs, but also about the economic losses, the burden, what a young woman's body will go through
Mhm.
if it prematurely has children.
That's correct. Yung support value that Secretary GP was pointing to is very important. And to the credit of Secretary Liling Briones and the DepEd, they instituted what is called comprehensive sexuality education. And it's a very interesting spiral na ang sabi nila, you give that message in grade 1 in a different way.
Mm.
You talk about uncomfortable touching, the value of less people abusing the environment and that sort. When you get to grade 3, ibang mensahe na. But all the way to high school, when it becomes important to talk about sexuality and how important it is to avoid early pregnancies. If you don't mind, Cito, I was almost in tears last night kasi I heard about babies being abandoned. And even before that, there were stories about babies being disposed. If you're a lolo like me, babies are very important treasures. But I look at that as the tragedy that will occur or that women face because they are not given the opportunities for family planning. It's a tragedy for young girls if they get pregnant too early because they were not given the opportunity and the information that will allow them to delay pregnancies.
But what
Yes.
are you suggesting, Doc Jondi? Because you are part of this forum on family planning and development.
Opo.
Now, no one will question the good intentions. No one will question the need for this to be institutionalized. Pero parang in the Philippines, kung hindi lang magkakapersonalan, walang suntukan. and nothing changes.
That's true. That's true. Also because of the concept of family planning, we started off with very important population and development, global and national issues related to family planning. But when you talk to people, families and young children, you have to go down to the level of the personal. Kung papayag na si Gab at si Ma'am Icy, from the broad development issues, sana sa more sexy bedroom ang pag-usapan natin ngayon, Cito. What are the ways that we can delay pregnancy? And I will look at it from a woman's perspective. Na ang babae, women who have too many children too frequently are placed at greater risk. So the first, for a physician like me, my first priority is safe motherhood. And to allow safe motherhood, it's important for the woman who has given birth to be allowed to rest, her uterus to recover, the blood loss to be regained. And that requires spacing. Spacing is already part of family planning. Delaying the next pregnancy is very important.
My question, Doc Jondi, is where do we fail? Kasi we already know the needs. We already know the problems. But I was with my wife yesterday, the other day, nagda-drive kami. And sabi ko, everybody thinks that if you post on Facebook, okay na eh. I remember your generation, my generation, pag nagkampanya ang gobyerno, meron sa radyo, may TV, sa magazine, sa comics, sa bus.
Yan, tama.
It's all out.
Yeah.
And I have been banging the heads of my students in government. Sabi ko, stop relying on Facebook because not everybody will see you or want to see you. Iba yung flood of information. Is that where we fail, the communication part, or is the religious still the obstruction? What's the problem?
Okay. I'll start with your second concern about the religious. The painful part for population people like Dr. Secretary GP and myself is we have seen that the church is not the deterrent. The conservative church is not the deterrent when it comes to issues between the husband and wife, the family, their choice of family planning. The first point you raised is more of the concern. If women and couples are given the information, have access to the information, and more importantly, the commodities they can use, that is where we are failing. We're not making the commodities available enough. We're not giving the information in the proper channels. I like to tease people who use Facebook too many times and call it it's not just social media, it's social media because not everyone has access to the internet, but it's a good start. Kasi now, even the farmers that I work with use text, unfortunately not the internet, to get information on weather, etc. So it's a good start, but the attempt is to communicate to people. Here in social media, and because of the lessons of the pandemic, our friends in the DKT have developed what they call easy reach. Yung pwede na mag-order ang babae ng pills, yung lalaki mag-order ng condoms through the internet. But I agree with you, beyond just the internet, Facebook or the like, we also need to have face-to-face interactions. And I'd like to think that we're beginning to pick up among our health workers to begin going back house to house, face-to-face, and sending and giving the message of family planning.
Is that policy or the program being endorsed by local government units? Because I remember Secretary Duque once saying na sa akin sa station natin na naging balakid or the independence of local government units under the local government code affected the fluidity or the transfer of information. Kumbaga, pag gusto ni Mayor, okay. Pag hindi gusto ni Mayor, walang pondo, hindi priority.
That's true in the sense that it works two ways. If you're with an enlightened mayor, some LGUs, many LGUs already pay for their own commodities. It's good that the Department of Health, as Secretary GP pointed out, already has more for buying contraceptives. But there are many mayors and governors who are allocating resources for this. So that's a good part. The challenge now is for those few who do not want to support their constituents by providing contraceptives. The DOH can still fill that gap and provide the resources as well. But the other challenge here, Cito, is communication. And it's not fair to leave it only on LGUs because the main deterrent in the past 2 years was the COVID pandemic. Even our family planning workers were shifted from their work providing information to contact tracing, promoting immunization. So may ganong balakid. But now I'm happy to note na bumabalik na sila sa regular programming and the regular task of providing services.
You're a physician. Your father was in government, etc. I'm wondering, yung bang funds or the budget for family planning, for population management, is it sufficient or is it a pittance? Kumbaga, barya-barya lang ang ginagastos natin para habang lumalaki yung problema at mga problemang ginagawa ng problema.
Yeah. The first issue is it enough? The last figure I remember is we need close to around 15 billion for a good national family planning program. The bad news is we haven't reached that amount, but compared to the time when my father was Secretary of Health, ang budget niya noon hindi lumalampas ng 7 million ang para sa family planning sa DOH. Kaya umaasa tayo noon sa foreign donors and the like. Now, DOH has a good budget for family planning, but unfortunately not enough. The other good thing that we have is the vasectomy that I like talking about. When you talk about vasectomy, Dr. GP was a little shy na he talked about vasectomy, but his wellness clinic in Popcom, dati 3 vasectomies a year lang nakikita ko eh. Because of his wellness clinic at si Dr. Louis Garcia sa kanyang clinic, umabot na sa 300 per year ang nagpakaroon ng vasectomy. So to go back to your question, we're still not doing enough. Yung 300 na yan is way below the 2 million unmet need for family planning services. So we're getting close a little by little, but still far from the desired services and money for that.
Yung kaibigan ko ang bilyonaryo na nabiyudo, after nung biglang nag-uumpisa ng tumingin ng mga chicks, sabi namin, pare, pakiusap lang, magpabasektomy ka muna at baka mamroblema yung mga anak mo na biglang dumami yung kalaban nila, kompetensya nila sa mana. Okay.
Totoo yan.
Yeah, I mean, most people take that for granted, but it does become a problem. But what about yung sinabi ko kanina, Doc Jondi, na ang dami na I'm not exaggerating. Yung mga nakakausap ko, mga misis na mga mini-minister ko, gustong magpalaygate. Pag pumunta sa public hospital, denied. Pag pumunta sa charitable hospital of the religious, denied. And I was saying, bakit pa tayo nagpo-promote ng ligation kung pag pumunta naman sa inyo, deny kayo ng deny?
Okay. That's very challenging. Dumating yung apo ko dito kaya hindi ko mapag-usapan yung more sexy topic. But regarding that issue, I'd also like to share the motivations of our health workers. Yung ligation at vasectomy, PhilHealth pays only 4,000 for the procedure, and only 1,000 of that 1,000 pesos goes to the service provider. So you can imagine in a hospital setting, when there's a need for ligation na 1,000 lang ibibigay, syempre ang priority ng mga obstetrician doon, yung cesarean section na close to 17,000, yung other procedures that are higher paying. So that was the mismatch. Ligation and vasectomy were put in hospitals na parang dapat sa more complicated cases. Now, PhilHealth is beginning to pay for that procedure when it's done in health centers. So yung imagine a health center.
But most people don't know that, yes. Doc Jondi. Most people know that if you want an operation, you go to a hospital, not to a health center.
Yeah, tama. So part of the education process again, and making that service accessible.
Okay. Doc Jondi, mabilisan lang. Ano ba itong Forum on Family Planning and Development? Hindi mo nasagot.
Hindi. Sorry. Kasi to be honest with you, yung mga ginagawang advisor, yung mga na-kick out na member dati. I used to be a member of the board. Pero dahil sa kalokohan ko, na-kick out ako, naging advisor na lang. But what I'd like to share is the opportunity that PopDev and the forum are putting forward. And especially, kung napansin mo yung humamawagayway na bandera, hindi lang Independence Day, but Father's Day na ang dadating na June. So it's an important opportunity for fathers to take on the responsibility. Forum, Popcom are doing our best to make sure that information and services are available. But apart from the big population and development issues, when you come down to the family and the need for resources and food at the family level, the father, not only the mother, has to assume responsibility for birth control, family planning, and the use of contraception. So para sa mga kaibigan mo Cito na gusto magpa-vasectomy, sila Dr. Sam Irastorza, merong programa ngayong June na tayo naman, emphasis on the man. Na hindi lang ligation at kung anong services for women. Ngayong June, merong vasectomy for men. And November will be World Vasectomy Day. kung taga Davao City kayo o taga Zamboanga, merong free vasectomy
Okay.
and ligation services dyan sa Cebu at sa Baguio at Mandaluyong, where POPCOM is located.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Jondi Flavier. And we hope to hear more from you. And thank you for showing us your cute apo. Mag-apostolic work ka muna, sir.
This is correct. This is Caris. Thank you very much, Cito. And have a good day.
Okay, now let's go to the blessing of the week. And it's just a reminder for all of you, when some things go wrong, take a moment to be thankful for the many things that are going right. Okay? I am your host, Cito Beltran, thanking you for joining us this morning, thanking the Lord for a program that has gone right. And God bless all of you. Please keep it here on One News PH.